Greetings, royal queens and kings. It's your host, Queen Tulsa. Welcome back to the Queen Tulsa Show. I will be your captain today. I'll have a co-captain, but you'll have to stick around and find out who that is. First and foremost, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I need you to press that subscribe button down below. If you're already subscribed to the show, set your notifications to all so that you don't miss any of the hot topics and fire content. And go on and press that like button while you're at it. Queens and Kings, on the agenda today, we have a recap review of the TASHAK interview with Major Harvey, ex-convict husband. He speaks out. There was 20 years of communicating. Allegedly, Majorie took over the game herself and started running it. There's a lot to get into. Well, let's get into it.
Girls can't never say they want it. Girls can't never say how. Girls can't never say they need it. Girls can't never say nah. Girls can't never say they want it. Girls can't never say how. Girls can't never say they need it. Girls can't never say nah. Oh nah. Give it to me like you need it, baby. Want you to hear me screaming, have it breathing. I don't need a reason, baby. I want it till you get right. I can get it to you right, baby. I wanna be healing. I can be real good. We don't get these feelings. Hey, I need some love.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we are back, and I want to thank you all for coming by the show today. I want to make sure I get this in here. Make sure you guys check out queentulsa.com. We are back up and running. We do have our own website. You can also download us in your Apple Store or your Google Play. We are definitely back up and running. So let me go ahead and pin this. And I do want to say that this is a fair use. I won't be playing any of Tasha K's content over here because we all are working, right? So first things first, we will be coming back here later on today. We will be coming back for Vagina Power. We'll have a special guest, Alexis K. Tyler. So she's going to speak about Vagina Power. She's a psychic reader, a medical intuitive, and we'll be live here on YouTube. Today is Wednesday, May 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. All right, getting the housekeeping out of the way. All right, so if you guys do not know who Jimmy is the ex-husband of Marjorie Harvey, right? And Marjorie Harvey is married to none other than Steve Harvey. Before we get into this, let's go ahead and start back with Jimmy. So Jimmy, of course, the ex-husband is from Memphis. He then moved to Chicago to start in the dealer world, And so, long story short, he was a pioneer. He got all his materials and products from the cartel. So he wasn't out here nickel and diming it. He was out here spending. He was dealing. He wasn't getting no 5s and 10s. He was getting money, And I also have my special guest, my co-host, Mother Hen, is in the building. All right. And so all this happened around the age of 19 with Jimmy. And so with that being said, he's 19, he moves, he gets into the world, of dealing. Now, Jimmy is 74 years old. He was born March 15th. So, Jimmy has spent 28 years in prison for the acts and the position that he held out here in the streets, right? Okay, so there was a minor case of life without the possibility of parole. So pretty much he had the unalivement sentence, right? And so it'll be 6 years. It'll be 6 years here in this past January that Jimmy has been out of the prison system. Jimmy was Marjorie's first husband. So let's just make that clear, guys. Okay? And let's make another thing clear. Jimmy is out on clemency. So pretty much if you don't know what that is, that's like a reduced sentence, you know? So pretty much all in all, he did like 30 years on a life sentence with good time, you know? So Jimmy had a childhood before he went into adulthood, as we all do. And Jimmy's childhood consisted of, you know, abuse in the household. Jimmy grew up watching his dad abuse his mom. At the age of 6 years old, Jimmy was taken away. And it really bothers me because, you know, growing up in a home and seeing your father commit these acts towards your mother, someone who you love, someone who your father convinced you that they love this person, and then you see them striking this person. So you have to think about the trauma of it all. And that's majority, well, I want to say, yeah, that's majority of some Black households. You know, when we talk about our older generation, Jimmy is 74 years of age, okay? So let's just make that clear. So Jimmy was taken away at 6 years old. So he was divided away from his mother. And that was his dad's way of controlling his mother, controlling the situation, controlling the narrative, and teaching her a lesson. So at 11 years old, Jimmy had developed, you know, hate in his heart. So at 11 years old, Jimmy had developed hate for his dad, you know, for the abuse towards his mom. And then he felt a way about his mom because she was looking for a better life. And I guess that was the narrative that Jimmy's dad had tried to program into his head. I want to say that Jimmy's dad abandoned the kids and kept them away from the mother. So, like I said, it was a game of, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And so he took the kids away from the mom, and then he abandoned them. For what reasons? It's just, and the only thing that I could come up with is controlling, manipulative, dysfunction, and the list goes on. So after reconnecting He had to learn to love his mom. He had to relearn that what his dad did was not the truth, and not it was not the whole truth. It was not the whole truth. And so Jimmy had to do the work for himself. Jimmy had to learn and be taught about embracing his mom. You know, and at 74 years old, he's ashamed to even have to address it. But that's due to the dad coming in and manipulating Jimmy, an innocent child. An innocent child. Well, unfortunately, both of Jimmy's parents are deceased. They went to glory. And to say the least, Jimmy's dad outlived his mother. Jimmy's dad went to glory at 94 years old. And let's take this back. Let's take it back, because when we talk about the abuse and the dysfunction, well, Jimmy dad was a bootlegger. Oh yeah, if you guys don't know what a bootlegger is, you know, kind of like a booster. Well, no, it's not like a booster. Well, it's getting something without going to a store or something like that, to simplify it for you. All right, so back in the day, you know, Jimmy's dad was an alcoholic. You know, he would, you know, pour up a drink and lose his mind. And Jimmy wants to let everybody know that, you know, in the interview, he said, well, you know, everybody has motives, good or bad. Everybody has motives, good or bad. And so, with that being said, with Jimmy having a story that identifies with majority, if not most and not all, Black males or Black family households, he's working on a 3-book series. Okay, now let's talk about this book series. You know, Marjorie and Steve Harvey, right? So they're together, right? Well, Jimmy had received a link from a friend that Steve Harvey was on an interview talking about Jimmy, talking about Jason. No, so Jimmy's friend sent him a link of an interview that Steve Harvey did talking about Jimmy's son, Jason. So if you guys don't know who Jason is not Steve Harvey's son. Jason has the last name Harvey, but he's not really a Harvey. He's a Townsend. And while Jimmy was away in prison, he almost was unalived. And let's take it here. Guess who was by his side for 20 years? Marjorie was by his side. I know you're guessing and wondering, this is no ordinary love. No, it is not an ordinary love. It was an unconditional love that Marjorie was showing, or deceiving Jimmy of. Now let's take it back. You guys probably want to know, well, if Jimmy's 74 and Marjorie isn't that, up there in age, when did they meet? Well, I'll tell you. Jimmy met Marjorie at 18. She was just fresh out of high school, just barely legal. Barely. Yes, barely legal. Jimmy was 32. So when they met, yes, she was legal. She was 18, he was 32. And, there's when you talk about Jimmy and his life path and his experiences, let's not forget that he went through, family DV, but let's talk about, an older woman turning him out when he was 16. And she was married and she was 36 years of age. Okay. So listen here. Now, the hustle has always been in Jimmy. Let's be honest. Jimmy was out there cutting grass, got him a job at 16. Let me go out here and mow some grass. Let me get some money in my pocket. So hustling has never been an issue for Jimmy. Now, not only was hustling and he was cutting that grass and then end up in that bedroom smacking that. At 16, the lady was 36. Listen here, that woman got up in him and she turned him out. Turned him upside down, baby. This grown woman prayed for a boy toy. She got it. Oh yeah, 16 years old, grown woman, 36, got her life, married, got a husband. And when he leaves, I can come over and that's what was going down. Listen. That's how it was going down, baby. Whether if you want to admit it or not. But let's just say this. Jimmy was established before he met Marjorie. Like I said, he was dealing. At 19. He met her. Well, he moved to Chicago in 19. And, he got into it. But at 32, he was well established, baby. But it's something about the story. You know how they say something in the buttermilk just ain't clean, or all the ingredients aren't there? You better believe it. And TASHAK got right down to it. TASHAK got right down to it, my love. Well, we're going to get into it right after this message. Thank you all so much for supporting Queen Tulsa, the show, whether it's a like, a share, a subscribe, a Cash App, a PayPal, or a Zelle. Thank you for coming by and watching the show. And this is your commercial for being acknowledged for just being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, who would be watching? Thank you for tuning in. All right. So let's get into it. So, The Illusion. Okay, there was a club. Hold on, let's take it here. Yeah. So there was a club called The Illusion, right? That Jimmy had owned. Mhm. Jimmy owned a club called The Illusion, and his second club was called J Max. So his first encounter with Marjorie was at Memphis State College, and she worked as a cashier. Okay, so let's point this out. Like I said, hustling was not an issue for Jimmy because Jimmy had owned a beauty shop as well. Mm-hmm. And when he had met her, when he had met Marjorie, she wouldn't give up the number. Oh no, she wouldn't give up that number. Not right then. So guess what? Guess what Jimmy did? As a player from the Himalaya. Well, he pulled out a wad of cash to make sure she saw it. You know? And so, I guess it was given, my love don't cost a thing. Unfortunately. Well, she never called Jimmy, and to say the least, Jimmy had forgotten all about her. Well, you probably want to say, well, how did he forget about her? Well, honey, he got busy with life and deals, so his goal was, reaching the top. He was doing his thing, managing his businesses. So, you know what? I wish I had like some crime music. Here, let me see. Let me see if I could look up some crime. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me cut these tunes off for you because, ladies and gentlemen, this is about to take a turn and it's about to get very serious. Okay? All right, so listen, check this out. So there was a new mall in town, and let's just say that Jimmy was there on a date. He was in a 2-seater Mercedes-Benz to check out the new restaurant. The Mercedes-Benz was red, to be exact, right? So then all of a sudden, Jimmy gets a page on his beeper. So he goes to the phone, calls his friend Pete, and boom, boom, boom. Did Marjorie see Jimmy pull up in the Mercedes and make her move? Yes, she did. And guess what? She creeps up behind him. And taps him on the shoulder. And then she gives Jimmy her number. Jimmy was on a date with another woman. And he's married. But Majorie was not going to let that be the reason she didn't stalk him. Talk about an investigations. All right. So now we're going to move on. Because it's back on Jimmy, because he's the innocent one here. So 20 years locked up. 6 years ago, Jimmy was going to write the book. However, Jimmy went back to get the okay from everyone that was going to be mentioned in the story, in the book. His encounters, their times in his life, his experiences with them, So, peep this out. So Majorie told the children a story to where they opposed the book coming out under the circumstance. Allegedly, she had given them a story, it's to blast me, and to talk down about me, and it was just a parent going against, pitting another parent against the other. So it was, let me paint the picture of the best parent, and it's me, and he's going to write this book allegedly and try to paint me into this dark person. But long story short, he wanted to tell his life experience. Let's put him back up here. Jimmy wants to tell his experience, his untold truth. He wanted to mention that he was turned out by an older woman. He 16, he thought he was in love. The 36-year-old woman stopped, and then he was depressed, and then everything started circulating back up, the child abuse. And then, he really got into depth about what the abuse was and how serious and harsh it had gotten. And so this is the thing. So he and Majorie were dealing around, of course. And so he made it clear he got 3 babies out of wedlock, and he didn't want any more children. So Jimmy and Majorie mom was in a good space. Her mom told him that she planned the pregnancy. So Majorie was supposed to be on birth control. And so she brought up the idea that she wanted a baby by him. He said, I got 3 children out of wedlock. That's not what I want. Life is busy. I'm doing deals. Life is busy. He just didn't have the extra time for it, right? And so he established a relationship with her mom. And so Majorie, she wasn't college material because she had dropped out. She didn't want to go. So the mom and Jimmy was telling her to terminate life, which I don't agree with. And I don't think that he agrees with that decision as well, because Jason is here, Morgan is here. And so Morgan and Jason are children that Majorie and Jimmy have together. I know they have Steve Harvey's last name, but unfortunately, those are not his biological children. Those are his adopted children. Okay, so Jimmy says that Majorie mom pressed her about the planned pregnancy. And, I guess they, had a tiff, because Majorie's father was nothing to play with. Nothing. And he stated on several occasions, I don't want any more kids. So Majorie and Jimmy was still talking while Steve Harvey and Marjorie were, engaged, on their, before they jumped the broom. So 3 days before she got married, Jimmy and her were on the phone, and Marjorie told Jimmy. So Marjorie told Jimmy that Steve Harvey is just like her dad.
Anything he want with you, ain't nothing you can do about it.
Money game. This ain't the black man's game. This ain't the white man's game. This is the money game.
Scratching and scrambling most of my days to get where I got.
Not sacrifice yourself. The best thing you can do for poor people is not be one of them.
Now I eats in the big house kitchen. I got pine boards on the floor of my cabin.
I crumble. My children crumble. My grandchildren crumble.
And it don't take much coughing for the master to make me have a cup of corn whiskey for my medicine.
I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, stand up here and let everybody that's counting on me crumble so I can make a statement.
Now that is fine living for a nigga, and I'll be damned if any African Guinea man is gonna make me lose all I've been working for. Now you take my money.
There are ways to win the war in a different way.
Better learn. You best learn or you're gonna get the bloody back for sure.
So Jimmy said, after she told him, he's like my dad, Jimmy said, you got a good one. You hit the jackpot pretty much. Jimmy wrote Steve Harvey to thank him for helping with his kids. How many men can acknowledge the fact that, hey, I was out of my children's life. My woman got with another man. This man decided to take on my children and care for them, as I would think, take them on as they are his own. Morgan and Jason's are Jimmy's children. So let's just take it here. So after, the communication of the 20 years and things like that, after she married Steve, it was bye-bye Jimmy, and her number was disconnected. And so Jimmy is in there thinking like, oh my God, what is going on? And so, yeah. But let's take it back. Let's take it back to when Jimmy had went down to the big house. He had got caught. Well, allegedly, Marjorie started running the business with his homie, Darnell. She said, one monkey don't stop no show, allegedly. Jimmy was married. Marjorie still proceeded to marry him. She was not taking no for an answer. Yeah. We're all in awe. Jimmy saved Marjorie. He took her charges and she played him. And those are his words, that's how he felt. That's how he feels. Now, Morgan's husband, Kareem, why is it that Marjorie does not like her daughter's husband? Is it because she's not on a Lori Harvey movement? Steve Harvey said Jason at 15 was rebellious. And so they sent him off to military school. You want to know why Steve Harvey sent Jason off to military school? Because Marjorie's son with Jimmy told Steve Harvey, you're not my father, Jimmy Townsend is. And you want to know what Steve Harvey said? I love your mom, so I got to love you. Where your punk A daddy at? Deadbeat. Trying to paint a story to Jason. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what Jimmy said that Steve said. Now, one thing that Jimmy had an issue with was like, oh, this blended family BS. Well, Steve, you called Jimmy a punk A. You know, and that wasn't about Marjorie. And so let's take it here. The book is coming. And the book is coming because Jimmy called Lisa, Lola, and Marjorie and asked them, do you have a problem with me writing the book? Everybody said no. They gave him the go. So, Steve Harvey, you better get ready. You better get ready because Jimmy is all gas, no brakes. Guys, if you like the first recap of the TASHAK interview with Kingpin, well, ex-Kingpin, Jimmy Townsend. If you would like part 2, definitely sound off in the comments. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming by today to support the show. Make sure you come by tonight for Vagina Power. We have a psychic reader, medical intuitive, guest speaker, Alexis K. Tyler, live here on YouTube, Wednesday, May 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be 7 p.m. Central Time, and that will be 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Thank you all for coming out, and I hope to see you guys later on. Make sure you check out QueenTulsa.com. Our website is back up and running. Make sure you subscribe to the mailing list and all of that good stuff. So on that note, we are out. Until next time, so long.
Girls can't never say yeah. Girls can't never say they need it. Girls can't never say nah. Girls can't never say they want it. Girls can't never say yeah. Girls can't never say they need it. Girls can't never say nah.